what's going on, guys? Welcome back. My name is Jeremy, and as you know, movies are terrible. And I'm joined here with Holden Hardman to discuss the most recent episode of Marvel's What If on Disney Plus. This one was titled "What If Killmonger Rescued Tony Stark?" And oftentimes, Holden, you have cited that maybe the what if question isn't actually the inciting incident. Did you put any thought into, like, is there something that happened in order for this to happen, as there have been in other episodes?
Yeah, I mean, there must have been something that prompted Killmonger to go and rescue Tony, but we didn't see that part. For us, because we know the narrative of the MCU films, the big change for us was seeing Killmonger coming in there and rescuing him. But something must have happened in Killmonger's life, or some event to prompt him to even be there at all in the first place.
Can I ask a noob question? And I don't even know that you know the answer to it. I might be putting you on the spot, but at what point in the timeline does Black Panther take place?
It took place after Civil War. The movie Black Panther took place after Civil War.
Okay, yeah, that actually makes perfect sense. So it's interesting that Killmonger is on this path so much earlier.
Yeah, well, they even said in the Black Panther movie he was always kind of working his way towards it. This may be my ignorance now, but I was under the impression that T'Challa did not officially become Black Panther until after his father died. Henceforth, the mantle get passed down. So I was unsure of why T'Challa had the power of Black Panther, and the suit and all that before his father died.
No, I think that's a great point. I think you're actually accurate in your assessment of where we're at on the timeline here.
Yeah.
I think this was probably, and don't get me wrong, I've liked this animation style since the beginning, but I think this episode in particular had some of the most striking artwork in it. The way the Black Panther suit looked was super cool. Everything that took place on like the astral plane was really cool. I liked the aesthetic of this. And I really like Killmonger as a character. I think he's super compelling, and I like the way that throughout the episode he interacts with these characters in a way that seems genuine and it seems real, but he's always manipulating the situation and kind of playing on everybody's goodwill in a lot of ways. And I thought that was really good. Is there a couple of highlights that stuck out to you this week?
Yeah, I think he's a really, really good villain. I will say, it was not necessarily a highlight, I guess, but I am not convinced that Killmonger would have been able to kill T'Challa as easily as portrayed in this episode. I get that it's what if, and maybe in this what if universe, T'Challa is just a little punk. But the T'Challa I know, I find having a hard time that once he got hit once with that little sonic thing, he would have just, took another hit. Like, there was nothing. He didn't do anything. So I didn't really like that. I was expecting more resistance. Kind of the same thing with Tony Stark. I feel like Tony Stark would have been smart enough not to just stand there idly by while his drone is fighting with somebody that is a trained killer with a fire. They literally had a shot of the drone coming at him and Killmonger just shooting at it. But if Killmonger could have literally just turned, shot Tony, and then kept going, I think that Tony would have been too smart to have been put in that position. He knew that Killmonger was,
super lethal.
He knew that, and he also knew that he had betrayed him before Killmonger even got there. So I feel like the Tony we know would have had a better plan. But I get this is a what-if universe, and maybe this what-if Tony was a moron. I don't know. But I wasn't crazy about that.
I like that he was a drunk again in this. Like, that's been a point of contention for me at certain points. And I've said, like, current day Tony Stark couldn't be an alcoholic. Disney made sure of that when they took over and really started overseeing these Marvel movies. I thought that they weren't allowed to have Tony be this kind of alcoholic womanizer. And in this, he said he wanted a Bloody Mary because The Hangover was kicking in. And I was like, oh, there's the old Tony Stark piece of shit that we know and love. But I agree with you. Like, everything seemed convenient.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to infiltrate the organization just by simply hoping that if he saved Tony, then Tony would make him the CFO, then he could reveal Obadiah Stane, and like all of these things had to work. But again, I tend to suspend my disbelief.
Yes, I to that point, I thought that his infiltration of Wakanda, gaining their trust with like next to no issue. You had, I guess, Shuri that was like, should we really trust this outsider? And the dad's just like, yes, because he's family. I killed his dad. Everything was just a little too easy. And so I think this kind of goes to the fundamental problem of What If, and that there's just not enough time to really give the character development or give like the situational explanations needed to make that more compelling. Because when you're cramming all of that, Tony Stark being betrayed, Obadiah Stane, Black Panther dying, Tony Stark dying, going to Wakanda, betraying the government in 30 minutes is a lot.
That's a really good point. And I do feel like that it's like all of the beats are there. It's a really great outline for a compelling story. But by cutting out all of the nuances of the dialogue between the characters that begin to kind of justify their actions or at least express their doubt, then all of a sudden you can buy into their motivations a little bit more. But when all of that stuff is excised in favor of A, B, C, D, all of these things have to happen in succession to get to the end, it does get to be very, just what you said. It's rushed, and it feels a little bit like there's not enough explanation for a lot of the things that happen. But I do feel like this episode fit in line a little bit more with the earlier stuff that we've been seeing in the season. I do have to imagine there's a reason why they're being portrayed in this order, and Owatu is certainly becoming a more and more of a presence. I mean, he wasn't as active as a participant in this one as he was the previous, but
visually he was physically like more there. He's been just like, oh, did you catch him? Now he's standing there. Like he's almost becoming more physical as the episodes have gone by.
Yeah, absolutely. The framing of him being in the center as opposed to off to some side or another as a spectator. Now he is the focus or the subject of the scene, which is it's interesting. And I think you said it well. And I don't want to come off like I didn't like this episode, because I thought the action looked great. I thought the animation was really good. I liked Killmonger's adaptation or his concept for the drones a little bit more than the drones that ended up being real.
Yeah, it reminded me. I guess it reminded me of the drones of Iron Man 2. I don't know if that was intentional, but yeah, it seemed like it. He was working on the drones instead of the actual Iron Man suit. I was curious about Nick Fury still assembling the Avengers, because with or without Tony, he was working on that since like the 90s. So I wonder if he still would have recruited Bruce Banner, if he still would have found Captain America, regardless of Tony Stark being there or not. But we didn't really get to see any of that. It was really a story of Killmonger. It was Killmonger's episode, I felt like.
And I actually mentioned at various points, and obviously I'm not the only one, but that I would kind of like to see Killmonger take over as Black Panther. We've discussed how much of what happens in What If is actually going to carry over into the MCU. And I really don't think they're going to go this direction. I don't think that they can let this Killmonger end up showing up as Black Panther in the movies. But as far as the what if of that scenario, that could be really cool and really interesting.
Yeah. I've said it in other episodes. I like the idea of What If just being its own thing. I really don't want to see any real world crossover. As interesting as I think some of the lines are, I think the universe that it's in and the media that we consume it in is just right. I don't want too much. Like, I don't want to have to if I missed episode 4 of What If, where Vision becomes an ant or something. I don't know.
Right.
Then I won't understand Quantumanium in the future. Like, I don't want that with What If.
Luckily, Star Wars hasn't gone down that path too terribly much with things like Bad Batch and Mandalorian and things like that.
Yeah.
But I do feel we're already beginning to see the crossover between the television and the movies in the MCU. So I think what you're kind of hitting home is you don't like the idea of the animated MCU What If crossing over, but how do you feel about something like Loki introducing the big bad Kang for what's to come in the MCU? Is that too much of an ask of casual audience members?
No, I think that whenever they do the movies, there's almost some type of recap or some type of reference
Yeah.
they must assume the audience, not everyone in the audience has seen Loki episode 6 or whatever. So they have to give like a brief explanation just to get everyone caught up. So because I'm expecting or anticipating Kang to either come into the future movies or they may just keep it in the series, but I'm more comfortable with that because at least that's a Loki that we're familiar with. You know, you don't have to. There's not so much nuance, I guess, that you have to know about to follow along, as opposed to like what if where Vision becomes bad and is feeding T'Challa to Scarlet Witch. You know.
Yes. Yeah, I
Stuff
get
like
what
that.
you mean. Yeah, I think that's a good point. All right, my man. Anything else about this episode in particular you wanted to hit on?
Yeah, I don't mean to. I feel bad because somebody commented like anytime Black Panther is involved, I'm always like it was okay. Like I'm never like it was great. But that's just how I feel about this episode. I feel like it was okay. I love Killmonger as a villain. I think that he's one of the more I don't know compelling villains, a relatable villain. Like I get his motivation, you know.
Yeah.
But the What If episode, just too much was going on, crammed into that 30-minute period of time, and it worked against him in this episode. So I thought the episode was fine. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't think it was bad. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you said about the condensed timeline of it. Killmonger is a incredibly compelling character. He's kind of always the ethical question of like, does the ends justify the means, right?
Yeah.
Like what he's after makes sense. You understand his anger and you can see why he feels the way he does. However, at what point does he cross the line? And it kind of touches on that idea of like you think violence is the answer to violence, you know, something to that effect, and he doesn't realize he's just kind of perpetuating this thing. If he's worried about the oppression of his people, it's kind of interesting. The only two people that we see him murder, no, that's not true, but a couple of the people that he murders are Rhodey and T'Challa, both in the same scene. And it's like, does the ends justify the means? Have you lost your way from what your original objective was in the first place? So yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in this episode that just didn't get a chance to really be explored.
Really shine, yeah.
Yeah. But I do like Killmonger very much as a character. I feel like, kind of side note, that particular drawing looks more like Michael B. Jordan than I think like almost any of the other drawings look like their characters.
Yes, I will say that the voice actor for Tony Stark did a great job.
Yeah.
Obviously, that wasn't Robert Downey Jr., but it sounded like just like him, his same inflections and everything. So that was great.
Yeah, absolutely. We said kind of jokingly that he didn't get a lot of lines in the Avengers episode. What if the Avengers died or whatever? So we definitely got a bit more of him this time. Guys, let us know what your thoughts are on this episode down in the comments section. We would love to carry on the conversation. It's the reason why I do this here. So thank you very much for stopping by to be a part of the conversation. Holden, same for you, man. Thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I was glad to talk Marvel stuff with you.
Yeah, of course. And if you guys want to get more of that Marvel content from Holden Hardman, head over, check out his channel every single week. He does a reaction with his fiance Jen, and they watch the episode. They share their thoughts over there. It's always a good time. Check down in the description where I will post a link. And until next time, and on behalf of both of us, I'm Jeremy. Be terrible.